I'm Marco Bollinger with iSeeiTravel, and I'm here today with Michael McColl, co-founder and director of communications for ethicaltraveler.org.
Hey, Marco.
Welcome.
Thank you.
So I wanted to ask you, why you guys felt the need to start your organization, and maybe tell us the story of how you got it all going.
Sure. So the concept of responsible travel, sustainable travel, ethical travel has existed for a while. One of our co-founders, Jeff Greenwald, he's a travel writer, and he was speaking at a travel book event, and somebody from the crowd asked him, what could we do as travelers to make travel a force for good?
Right.
And he said that's a pretty good question. Why don't you come up and talk to me afterwards? And so that woman, Kristen Haimovich, and Jeff and myself and a few others became sort of people discussing this around a kitchen table around 2002. Then in 2003, the royal family of Nepal was tragically killed, almost all of them. And Jeff, the inspiration behind all of this was his second home is Nepal. He was very familiar with Nepal. And he said, this is a problem. And the problem is that the Chinese have been putting pressure on Nepal for a long time to not let Tibetan refugees cross Nepal on the way to Dharamsala. He said, we need to launch as an organization now, and we need to make our first campaign on a complete tourism boycott of Nepal to stop this returning of refugees to China, where they will certainly be imprisoned, probably be tortured, if their monks possibly be killed. I wrote a press release, we sent it out, and we did reluctantly launch a full tourism boycott of Nepal. It became headline news in Nepal. It became news everywhere on every continent except Antarctica. And amazingly, within 5 weeks, the government of Nepal changed its policy. And it said, okay, we're going to continue letting the UN host these refugees as they pass through Nepal. So at the next meeting around that kitchen table, you can guess that there was some celebration as we said to ourselves, it works. Tourism as a force for good works. And we've been doing campaigns, though not tourism boycotts, we've been doing campaigns ever since.
That's amazing. I actually didn't know any of that story. I'm completely enthralled. I guess that leads into the other question I had. I was reading on your site a little bit about how you were mentioning information that's available today that wasn't really so available 10 years ago. And I was hoping you could share a little bit of what you mean by that. Obviously, the campaign you were able to affect, I imagine, was influenced by internet outlets and being able to reach people in that way. That was where my mind first went reading that comment, but maybe you have more to offer on that.
Sure, well, and it certainly is the case that because it's easy and free for us to communicate with our members, we can make it free for people to join Ethical Traveler. They can then get emails from us when we have an action alert and say, hey, there's an emergency campaign. We can very quickly rally thousands of people to write letters to the Minister of Tourism in a given country. And I think that's the critical difference that we're bringing to the table here is in many countries, the leadership of that country doesn't care about the environmental movement. In fact, they're kind of actively opposed. They don't care about human rights. In fact, they may be actively opposed, but they care a lot about income from tourism that supports their economy.
Sure.
So that gives the tourists of the world power, economic clout, and we can use that economic clout to protect human rights and the environment. So that's the secret sauce of Ethical Traveler. Now, we don't want to only be negative. We don't only want to do campaigns. So Ethical Traveler does do campaigns, and that's sort of the stick to our carrot and stick approach. We also have a carrot, and the carrot is that annually we do a guide, a report basically, of the world's top 10 ethical destinations in the developing world. It's the developing world because we feel like that's where we can have the most influence.
Right.
But we analyze all of the developing nations in the world, and we boil it down to the top 10 that are doing good things in terms of ecotourism, in terms of protecting human rights, in terms of protecting the environment. That report comes out at the end of every year for the upcoming year. And that report is basically telling travelers, when you travel somewhere, your dollar that you spend on that travel is a vote. It's supporting the destination that you're visiting. So
this report is easy to find.
This report is always on the homepage of ethicaltraveler.org.
Okay. That's great. That's
and
fantastic.
it also is picked up by many media outlets around the world because they too like the idea of using travel as a force for good.
So my next question, this is perfect. My next question was, for everybody else out there, given that you guys have worked in this extensively over the last several years, I was wondering if you could give us some places where you, as an organization, see the most potential for change through awareness and education in perhaps some of the policies of these governments or tourism boards or communities in general. What are some of the easiest places we can affect change for the good, given, not a ton of effort? Obviously, a lot of these endeavors you guys get into, are quite big. But for everybody else out there who wants to do their part, where do you see that effort really effective?
Sure. And I think that people will be surprised how easy it is. The tourism industry is an industry. It's a business. It needs to make a profit to survive. So the way that we as individual travelers can encourage tourism businesses to do the right thing is that we as travelers ask them. When we show up at the hotel, we can ask them, do you have recycling? Do you have solar power?
Right.
What do you do about your energy management? If you ask questions, and it can be about the environmental issues or the human rights issues that are most important to you. Do you hire guides from the local neighborhood, from the community? Just asking those questions makes the owner of the business realize, my clients care about this stuff. And if you're running a little hotel somewhere and you find that the more green you make your business, the more people stay at your hotel, you're motivated to make your business green, even if you didn't care about this before.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for joining us here. Just let us know again where everybody can find all this information.
Absolutely. So the easiest thing to do is to come to the website at ethicaltraveler.org, and if you sign up as a member, it's free. We have over 4,000 members in over 50 countries worldwide, and by signing up, you'll hear when we have little alerts, when we have a new list of ethical destinations. It'll keep you in the loop.
Awesome.